Hello, my name is Tim Sanford, and I want to welcome you to the Miami Valley Preparedness Network, where we're teaching the skills of self-reliance living in today's culture. If you'd like to be a part of our meetings, you can go to MiamiValleyPreparednessNetwork.com or join our Facebook page, and you can see all the events going on there. Just remember, preparedness is not just an event, it's a lifestyle.
This guy's been introduced in my life probably about 4 months ago, and most of you know him here. He works for the Dayton Police Department. He's a sergeant. What is the division now? Is it
Central Patrol Operations?
Central Patrol Operations. He gets to play with bicycles. He has his own. He was telling me some of the new state-of-the-art bikes that they have for the police officers, things like that. It's amazing what they're coming up with. But he does a great job. We're glad to have him here. I want to introduce Sergeant Aaron. Give him a round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, my name is Aaron Fraley. I'm Sergeant for the Dayton Police Department. I'm also a member of our executive board for our Fraternal Order of Police. This is our building, so I want to welcome everybody coming out. Hopefully you all like the place, because we're going to be here a lot this year. We've got a lot of property here. We will be exploiting it for the Preppers Network as we go along. Probably couldn't tell because of the beer truck trailer and the giant tent next door. We had a fish fry Monte Carlo Friday night, so those things are still sitting there. We got a nice little pond back here. When you guys get a chance, when we're done, I don't know how light it is or will be with the time change and all. You're more than welcome to walk around out back and take a look at it. We're really proud of this place. We put a lot of effort and money into bringing it up with the digital projector and the PA system and Wi-Fi and what have you. We should also have some flyers out there in the hall by the door too. This thing is available. We do a lot of wedding receptions and such. Water filtration. Why am I an expert? Well, I've been a few places. I'm not that old, but I've done a fair amount in my day. I was a Boy Scout for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people in here were Boy Scouts. I used to do what we termed hardcore Civil War reenacting. We went in with what we had on our backs, and we'd spend a week or a weekend somewhere, and that was it, with 18th century technology. These types of things have brought me into close contact with a lot of sketchy water sources, and sometimes I've been okay and sometimes I haven't. I've had quite a few stomach bugs in my day, so I've learned the hard way. I'm also Inspector Gadget. Like Tim said, I have spent a lot of money, and water filtration is one of those things that's really close to me. So these are all things that I've purchased myself, and I will continue to purchase these types of things because after oxygen, what do you need the most?
Yep.
Water.
Water, that's right.
So it's number 2 on the list. Hopefully this works right. Normally I like to get out and wander around and engage people, so I might be kind of fidgety up here because I'm tied to this. I like having a clicker and all.
I was out of clicker.
Yeah, lack of planning and all here in the preparedness. Nah, that's all right. I'll get it. Let's just see which button actually makes it go. All right. What you need to know. You need a little bit of biology, you need a little bit of chemistry, and you need a little bit of math. But not too much. I'm not going to sit up here because I'm not a biologist, I am not a chemist, and I am not a mathematician. I'm a beat cop, okay? I work in a job where you have to have a GED and a good clean record, and that's about it. So yeah, so I'm not up here to try to wow anybody, and if we do have any mathematicians, biologists, or chemists amongst us, which hopefully someday we may have, if I'm on the mark or a little off the mark, feel free to point it out to me, but this is the stuff that I've learned, and I've spent a great deal of time researching the topic. Found a nice, I hope free to use on Google picture, nice mountain valley stream. Yeah, I don't have anything, so no, if you want my bills, you're welcome to them. Serene, beautiful, but is it safe to drink? You know, nice, placid, meandering mountain stream. What could be nicer? What could be more pleasant? No. I think a lot of times people end up having a lot of romantic ideas about frontiersmen, and people just wandering down to a creekside somewhere and taking a sip out of a water source or a river. You know, this stuff used to kill people. Used to kill people all the time. I think if you were magically teleported through time back and you're hanging out with Simon Kenton or somebody, and you hop down on your knees and start sipping out of a creek, they'd probably look bug-eyed right at you, like you are taking your life in your own hands. I put on here, is everybody able to see this okay? I wanted to make sure the font was big but not too big. It's a little bit blurry, but this is a 100 times magnification of just a sample of river water, just plain river water. They took it right out of the, took it right out. And you can see here we got some plants and God knows what. Here's a little critter right here.
Yummy.
Yeah, you want to drink that? Yep, there it went.
They're losing power?
No, it's just messing with me. And that's just 100 magnification. There's, you know, that little critter swimming in there would be as big as a school bus to some of the things that you're gonna find. This one, I don't know, now this one's a little bit low. If everybody can see this website, this web address at the bottom, http://water.epa.gov/drink/contaminants/pound list. This is from the Environmental Protection Agency. This list right here is awe-inspiring. These are all of the things that they use to test the quality of drinking water that everybody does, municipalities primarily. These are the types of things that if the EPA is going to come in and check, these are the things that they're going to look for. They've got them broke down into the types of items. They'll have classifications, organic versus inorganic chemicals. They even have a section for disinfecting chemicals. So the water purification tablets are listed. They also list what health concerns they are likely to present to people. They are also going to list the sources. And if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and the technical aspect, they will tell you what their goal limit is, what they would like a water source to be, and what their actual limit is. How bad can something be dissolved or present in a water source before they're concerned that it will begin affecting people's health? So this website right here, excellent one. I'm telling you all, you got to read it because you'll spend a lot more times. So common contaminants in the water, microorganisms and parasites. I will say, I'll back up a little bit. This is all my information, learn and glean from a lot of sources. These are my classifications. Like I said, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a mathematician. So a lot of these are going to be grouped in just to dumb them down for me to put together a presentation. There's all kinds of rules and taxonomies and things. People like to say what actually belongs where. These are the way I've broken them down to easily present them to you guys. Chemicals, pesticides, petroleum products, gas, oil, kerosene, diesel fuel, pesticides. God, there's probably an encyclopedia just for pesticides that are used, and you know, we're still kind of in farm country out here. A lot of y'all live on farms down the country. You're not going to be able to go down to a ditch and drag something out without God knows Roundup and everything that your neighbors are putting into it and running off. Bacteria and viruses. Bacteria are living organisms. So why didn't I put them in with microorganisms and parasites? This is a size thing. I did this as a scale difference. Bacteria and the virus, like I said, that little swimming critter in that 100 times magnification is going to look like a school bus compared to a bacteria. And a bacteria is going to look like an apartment complex to a virus. It's all a relative scale issue. And sediment and particulates. That's just the big stuff. That's the dirt, that's the mud, it's the crud, twigs and rocks and whatever else. Those are all the things that are going to be getting in the way and screwing up your water filter.
Dayton water to me. Dayton water.
Tell you what, Dayton City water is really, really good compared to Cincinnati. I'm going to tell you right now.
Cincinnati, you gotta check the bloodborne pathogens.
Exactly. Cincinnati sucks that stuff right out of the river.
Wow.
Their municipal water is sucked right out of the river and then treated. Dayton's is drawn from underground aquifer.
Yeah, wow.
Exactly. Dayton, say what you will, you know, I'm an employee, I'm not going to say too much. You're all welcome to your own opinions about the Dayton government. But one thing they did right back in the day was to build that water treatment plant, because that thing is well worth the expense. So here we got some math, metric system. Fun for us Americans, right? Yeah, it ain't, but it's simple, really. And I got this one just to show a little bit more of the scale, because this is what we're getting down to. Is what kind of filter do you need to filter whatever's in the water? You got to think small, like impossibly small. Can anybody tell me what the metric unit of length is, the standard unit of length? Meter, correct. So a meter would go right here, okay? We don't use deca and we don't use hecto very much. We don't, so we use kilometer, okay? So a kilometer is 1,000 meters. All of these prefixes here, I don't know if you, my laser pointer is probably dying out, much like the microphone. Yeah, EMP, that's right. One of these days we need to get to Faraday cages too. There you go. What we're looking at are the tiny ones here, and this is kind of where people get confused. We don't really use decimeters, so that's a tenth of a meter. A centimeter, we're familiar with centimeters, so that's 1/100th of a meter. Then we go, this is where it gets confusing. A millimeter is 1,000th of a meter. If you take a meter, a little over 3 feet, and you divide that into 1,000 pieces, that's what a millimeter is. But we think million. You hear millimeter, you think million. That's actually what micro is. Okay, micrometer or micrometer. It uses this. Yeah, it's I like to play. Okay. It uses this funky upside down and backward H. So it would be this funky H, M for micrometer. And then nanometer. Okay, that's 1,000 times more are smaller than a micrometer. The micro and the nano is a little bit too small. We're really going to be dealing with microns, because a micrometer is referred to as a micron. For any of you that's looked at filters, and it'll say it filters down to common filtrations, the 5 micron. Those are old. A lot of the smaller ones do 2. I think this one here, this is the Aquamira Frontier filter or something. I think it does down to 2 microns. So something that is 2 millionths of a meter. For just kind of a scale reference. That's getting old. Standard piece of paper is 1/10 of a millimeter thick. So it'll take 10 pages of paper to make 1 millimeter. Okay? This room is 60 feet long. That's a little over 18 meters. I did the math. It would take 182,880 sheets of paper, stacked thickness, to reach from one side of this room to the other. We would need 4.5 more rooms on this size, stacked. We need a total of 5.5 rooms this side, stacked with sheets of paper, to be 1 million. To see 1 million pieces of paper stacked up. I don't know. That's still kind of hard even for me to get my head wrapped around. But that's how small these things are going. This is what you're going to have to look out for. The 0.5 and the 0.2 microns are a little bit better. Let's see, did we get that one? Did we get that one going? All right, the volume's about the same. Half of a micron. So half of that millionth, or 2/10 of a millionth, is the smallest size that some of these really good filters will go for. This is a giardia. This is a magnification. This is your enemy. Know him. Hate him. Give him no quarter. This guy is bad news. This is the culprit behind the beaver fever. Everybody's heard that. The beaver fever. Giardiensis.
Tell them why it's called that.
Because giardia is spread through excrement, through urine and poop, by aquatic animals.
Yep.
That is then drunk in water if you don't treat it correctly, you don't filter it correctly.
So when Bambi's dumping upstream from you,
Correct, yes.
you get the backflow.
Yeah, muskrats and beavers and all of that, you're willing to drink their poop and pee in that cup of water.
Survival stuff's getting a little bit too serious.
Yeah, it is. That's, we'll just let it go, because I can keep going. Also, I'm still fighting a sinus infection, so if I sound like crap, I apologize. Speaking of. So here I've got just some average sizes of some of these contaminants. Parasites, they're going to be huge by comparison. Some of them you could even actually see with your naked eye. 1 to 100 microns or larger. Bacteria, the smallest are going to be about 0.2. So some of your better filters here are going to have the ability to wipe out most all of your bacteria. Virus, these are the ones that are going to sneak up on you. They can go as small as 0.005 microns. That is 5 millionths of a meter. Very, very small. And chemicals, depending on what the chemical is, that could be a molecular level thing. If it's depending on how it's dissolved, or if it's dissolved at all, those are the ones that are really going to sneak up and get you too. And these measurements, one thing that I have found out They can be misleading. Don't depend on something to just say, oh, well, we'll filter down to whatever 0.5 microns. Hey, that's great. Some things are 20 microns long and only, half a micron wide. So not everything's just like a basketball. The bacillus, which is anthrax, is a bacillus. They're shaped kind of like little pieces of rice, so they're long and skinny. So when somebody starts throwing out the microns and stuff, you got to be careful. What are you actually measuring? Are you measuring the width or the overall length, or are you just throwing out some random size? It can be a little misleading. And this, did we get the internet to work on this? Let's try it.
We didn't.
I don't think we did.
Let me look here.
Anyway, this website here, I found they've got a really neat animation that I wanted to try out. And hey, there it is.
Bingo.
Very good.
Hope you don't need sound.
No sound. We don't need sound. Sound is overrated. You guys are stuck listening to me. Uh-oh, now what?
Did it go down?
Update Java immediately.
Just put no.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you work on that. Okay. This is an animation. It starts with a finger, with somebody holding a pin. Everybody's familiar with a straight pin, and it's got the head of a pin, and it goes down, and you can zoom in, and it'll show you how small. They'll just have a human hair on top of the pin, and then they'll go down, and it goes and it shows you dust mites. Dust mites you can see with the naked eye, if your eyes are good enough. They can fit on the head of a pin. Then it goes down and it will show you pollen, which is even smaller. These things you can't see, but in the right quantities, they can make you sick or even kill you.
For some reason, it's not showing up on the screen, though.
It's not. Okay.
Okay, why don't I do this? We'll come back.
Yeah.
Is that all right, PowerPoint?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
If it'll work. Sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties. There's some of the problems switching between Mac and PC. So.
Don't know. It's not.
No.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dude.
Okay.
Oh, here comes my computer expert.
Yay, Caleb.
How many people does it?
Yeah.
How many fingers does it take to make it?
Yeah. Remember, I'm not an IT guy either. I could go on and on and on with the things that I'm not. Here we go.
You are the man, Caleb.
There you go. Go down a little bit more. Just start the animation. Stupid ads.
Now you're gonna get spammed.
The ads, yeah.
Down there at the
The
bottom.
down bottom, yeah.
Start the
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. It doesn't actually, I gotta click it too, but that'll work. Okay. This is a little awkward. Okay, everybody can see this is a pin. All right, so we zoom in. Wow. Now we're on a scale 2 millimeters. You can just kind of see some little specks up here. I'll just do it over here. So this is the head of a straight pin. So we can see here's a human hair laying on the head of a straight pin. And here's a couple dust mites.
Wow. And what size would that be?
Oh gosh. Yeah, this is the magnification scale down here. So we're almost to 100 magnification. Get my fingers here. All right, 200 micrometers. Here's our scale reference. You see this? We're gonna get in here. That's ragweed pollen. And here's a dust mite, something that you could probably struggle to see with the naked eye. And there's pollen.
Wow.
20 micrometers. There's our width. Okay. Ragweed pollen. This is a red blood cell. Okay. And baker's yeast and a lymphocyte.
That was making sense.
Yeah. 2 micrometers.
Wow.
So here we have E. coli and staphylococcus, staph infection, MRSA. So these are pretty big, but we still got a little bit more to go. Let's keep going in here. 200 nanometers. This is the Ebola virus. Everybody remember that?
Yep.
The flesh-eating virus. These little guys down here, rhinovirus, the stuff that gives you a sinus infection.
Really?
One of many.
Right.
There we go. This is the stuff we're talking about. Tiny, tiny little things. So let's go up to 1,000,000 magnification, 20 nanometers. That is smaller than the 0.2 microns, much, much smaller. Even your most effective filters are not going to defeat that. They're not going to wither that out. All of this stuff is just a balance between what you can do and what you need and how much money you have, honestly, or how much space you have, or did you really have to bug out and what did you have to leave behind? Yes, sir.
Thing to that right there, and like you said, most of your stuff is going to filter it out. Okay, there's redundancy. 2 is 1, 1 is none. If you filtered your water out and you took a couple drops of normal household bleach, would it help?
Yes, and that's an excellent point. That's one of the things that we're going to get to is all of this. You see why I have all of these different things, because you've got to take a multi-prong attack. You can't just depend on one thing. Okay? Not one thing is going to get you through. Even these filters frequently do not have just one filter element in them to defeat these. And a lot of times, these things are actually not necessarily going to make you sick or anything. You have to have the right dose, the right quantity get into you, and hopefully your body will be healthy enough to fight them off naturally. A lot of these things are still in drinking water, even the awesome Dayton water. These things are still going to be in there, but they're going to be so far reduced because of chemical treatments and because of physical filters.
Born and raised in Dayton, lived pretty much my whole life. I live in Brookville now, but I know when I was a kid, I drank Dayton. So as a kid growing up, your body's kind of starting to develop and sort of a slight immunity.
Correct.
Tell them what you're saying.
Yeah, he's mentioned that there's no one. If the filters don't, first he mentioned if the filters don't get the virus out, using a chemical treatment will defeat it, like chlorine. Yes, that is true. And he also said he grew up and you get used to the water source you drink from. That is true. Yes, sir.
We're talking to a guy that you mentioned being stationed over in like Belgium or something, and he said the Americans that would come up and get stationed up around there, they would drink the water once, it would mess with their system, and then they would just spend ungodly amounts of money buying bottled water afterwards. So he says, well, what you needed to do was keep drinking the water off the tap. Yeah, you're going to end up to run for like a week or two, but then and it's not going to be pleasant. But then after that, your body then starts building tolerance. It's like, oh, this is the new water source. It's the bugs actually worth building to fight against, and then it's fine after that.
Yes, that is correct. He mentioned that people overseas, when they get exposed to a new water source, you have to tough it out and go through that acclimation period until your body gets it. Your body produces natural antibodies, but not always in the right numbers. And that's going through those experiences. That's what will turn those on, and your body will respond and say, "Oh crap, man! I really need to make some more of this type of thing." Let's see, how do I get back to this, Caleb?
Just, you went out of that? Just X out.
Well, but I'm on this.
Okay.
On here, yeah. Rescue me here. Well, there's an issue between flipping between the two programs here, and I'm not, yeah, okay.
Get used to looking at opposite screens.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah, close both of them.
Now this, or maybe starting back at the beginning.
That's fine.
Yeah, I can wing it.
Thank you.
Let's see, where do we go? Get back here. Nope. Okay, so here's the next one. Again, these are my classifications. This is where I've grouped them in just so it's easier for me to kind of explain the processes here. What methods of filtration and purification can we use? First, filtration. You're going to pass the water through some physical barrier or some filtration membrane or matrix or what have you, and it's going to physically draw out all the different impurities that it can, possibly. Disinfection. That's where I'm going to classify, you're adding something to the water source to kill whatever is going to be harmful to you. Bleach, chlorine, which is bleach, and the sodium and the iodine and potassium, all those different compound things. Even I'm grouping in this the new UV filter or UV exposure devices you can put in water bottles and what have you. I'm putting all of this in disinfection here, or disinfection. You're not taking anything out, you're just trying to kill what's already there. And the last one is distillation. Same as making booze, moonshine.
Really?
Yep, you can do that with water. You can do the...
Just boiling it.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I've also grouped into this because for my purposes, if you heat a water source and then you condense it to get your water, your drinking water, it's going to be kind of a distillation process.
And they say that with your distillation process, you want to bring it to a rolling boil.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And what was the time? It was
Depends on your altitude, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, your barometric pressure and your altitude. Correct. That's exactly it. Is what temperature will everything take to kill, and you can raise and lower your boiling point depending on your elevation. Okay, so filtration. This one's going to be probably your primary source of drinking water, and it's the most common because why? Because they're easy to manufacture. These are portable. They're extremely lightweight. They can go anywhere with you that you're willing to carry them. Typical components. Yeah, we'll use my favorite one here. This is the Katadyn Pocket Microfilter. This thing is like the Ferrari of filtration.
I got the Hiker too, bro.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, the Vario and the Hiker. Those are all good. This one, this little dangly hose here. If you can see it, this is the import. So you throw this in your water source that you're going to filter from. It's got a little mesh screen on here to filter out the sediment and the particulates and the sticks and the mud and all the big stuff that's going to gunk up your filter and ruin its effectiveness. It's just a pump and it's got an output port and it just squirts it out here. So you put your hose in your water source, you open up your water bottle, you pump it like a tire pump, and it squirts clean water in.
Now, do you have to keep pumping it, or?
Yes, yeah, it's not like a
Pressure.
like a siphon or anything like that. Yeah, you have to, like a bicycle pump, you have to keep going. Most filters use activated charcoal or activated carbon, same kind of thing. Anybody know what makes it activated? Why it's not just plain charcoal? Why it's not Kingsford? Why it's not? Anybody?
Chemical treatment of the extra charcoal.
That's true to an extent. It has a lot to do. It's more to do with density. They change the density. It's very, very lightweight. They make it porous. They basically blow a bunch of tiny, tiny microscopic little air bubbles in it, and they create cavities inside the charcoal to actually increase its surface area and make it more effective. Some things, and there's two things here. I've got this word here, adsorption. I didn't spell absorption wrong. That's an actual different word. I get to use $10 words every once in a while, and I like to. Adsorption means that it's chemical attachment, that it's not just a physical trapping of the impurity, but it actually chemically bonds to whatever it is that's going through there, and it will permanently remove it from the water. And then, like my Katadyn, they have silver and ceramic or other membranes. Silver also has its own natural antibiotic kind of properties. It kills microorganisms. It's one of the reasons we have silver and silver-plated silver flatware eating utensils instead of just plain iron that would rust and you'd get tetanus and what have you. Yes, sir.
Supposedly Alexander the Great had a special silver flask that he was carrying his water in.
Oh, I did not know that. Right. Alexander the Great had a special silver flask. It would be the same thing. It was a lot of the superstition that actually turned out to work, not by superstition, but through observation. You know, the stuff actually works. So I have some notes here too. I've already gone over some of the pros and cons for filters. Commonplace, they're all over the place. You can buy them, they're easy to use. You know, these things are made so that anybody can pick them up and go. That's like I said, the portability is key.
Is there one that maybe, like the ceramic, I hear the ceramic is better than charcoal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the silver rate in between there? Is it in between there, or is it better than
No, well, usually you have some that are just ceramic and then some that are silver impregnated. The Katadyn pocket is silver impregnated.
Okay.
It has the silver with the ceramic.
Okay.
And those are going to be the more expensive ones.
Sure.
Like I said, this is an older model. It's used. I got it off of eBay. I got it for under $200. Normal retail is between $250 and $350 now. So anything I would say, if you can get this under $250 and used, I'm not picky. Maybe, you know, even being a cop, maybe I'm a little bit trusting, but I think somebody's going to have to be really sadistic or do something weird with something. You know, it's made to filter water. What else are you going to possibly do with it? So I don't personally have a problem using a used filter. This thing has an advertised life for this filter element is 13,000 gallons. Wow. Depending on your water quality that you're putting into it. 13,000 gallons, which look at how small this is. Yeah. Replacement filter cartridges are about $180. So that's the difference. Like I said, not everybody's got $180 to throw around. I usually don't. That's why I look on eBay and I have an automatic search, and anytime new auctions come up, and then I just bid, and I got lucky and I got a couple of them, one for me and one for my wife. So we're both covered. Our bug out bags have one each. They're very lightweight. Some of the cons for filtering. Anybody want to venture some? What weaknesses would you guys be concerned about with just a water filter?
Weaknesses?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you don't have size and portability. If you're
Correct.
in an emergency situation, you need to move quickly. What's the largest item that you can take with you?
That's correct. He said portability. This is very portable, like I said, but you're going to pay for it.
Yes.
You know, this is even more portable, but it's not going to be as good as that. Like I said, there's no guarantees in life. This is get what you can to do the best you can and hope you survive. That's That's really, you give yourself the best option, the best ability. But that's why I have all of these.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to depend on just one. You know, I'll get a little bit more into those. But yeah, the portability issue, you know, I'm not saying anything. I haven't tried the Berkeys. I'm looking very forward to trying the Berkeys. I would love to have that big desktop one. But if I've got to go, that thing's going to be my backpack.
That's right.
You know,
Exactly right.
I can't take that thing with me. So that's something you have to consider. Exactly, you know, they do make some big old honking things. Now, we're not going to get into desalinization because we don't live near the ocean, so salt water is not a concern, and I've not really learned much about it, so I couldn't help you even if I tried. We may end up with oceanfront property at some point in the future, but not anytime soon that I can tell. Activated charcoal, one of the cons. Activated charcoal will only work by adsorption with organic chemicals. It will not work with your heavy metals. Your lead and your mercury, you're going to have to count on that filter physically catching it. You're going to have to hope that the molecules are grouped and they're large enough to actually get caught up in the matrix of the carbon or charcoal itself, because it's not going to chemically bond with the charcoal itself. It'll pass right through. So you can drink lead, you can drink copper, you can drink mercury. All of these things will go right through an activated charcoal filter. Let me see. And manufacturing. You know, these are kind of the things that you get what you pay for. You can get the El Cheapo brands and stuff. You got to do a lot of research on these, because what did we say at first? Oxygen first, water second. I'm not big personally into a lot of water storage because my house is made out of plywood and drywall. I'm not counting on staying there to make a stand. So all of my stuff is made to go somewhere else. I can go, especially around here in Miami Valley, I can go almost anywhere, and if I'm willing to dig a couple of feet, I can find groundwater, or I can find other alternative water sources, but the quality is not going to be guaranteed. That's why I depend more on filtration rather than storage, because I'm not lugging around a 50-gallon drum just to do for myself and my family. Water is heavy, so my strategy is to count on finding it wherever I go and then treating it, dealing with it there. Like I said, my house would probably not stop a very determined fly, so I'm not. Not counting on it. So again, with quality, you got to look for quality manufacturer. Katadyn, MSA, that's Mine Safety Appliance. Those are your big names. They all have really good stuff. The value is there. As the dollar signs go up, generally so too does the quality. Look for your filter life. What is your life expectancy? Buy extra filter replacements. You know, a 13,000 gallon life on a small filter like that, I can carry that in a spare filter and I'll be good until I can build my own water treatment plant. Yes, sir.
Well, it's just like what you said. I mean, you know, you buy a brand name, it goes up. I mean, that's, you know, people have always asked me, you know, what type of gun to use for home defense. It's like, well, what do you want to buy? Okay, because you want to stake your life on something cheap, or do you want to actually take the time to invest some money on something you know that's going to keep you going? So, like you said, Katadyn, to me, I mean, up till now, Berkey and Katadyn have only been the only two names I've heard. Yeah. And I've heard nothing but positiveness out of both of those names. So pretty much those are the ones I'm going to kind of stick with.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, the standards.
Yes, they are the standard. If anybody's got anything else, those are the guys that they have to meet
Right.
or exceed to impress me. And like he said, if the same equivalency as far as gun usage and ownership, quality matters.
Save your life on something.
Exactly. If you're depending on something to save your life on a piece of equipment, you better get the best that you can possibly get. And sometimes it makes saving up for an investment. It makes it worth it. Second type, disinfection. This would be a secondary method. I would not use this as my primary method because it's less effective. It'll still keep you alive, and in a pinch, it can be what you need. But I would not count on just pouring bleach into my water for the rest of my days to treat it all. Because for those of you that wrote down the EPA website address, they have a whole section in there just for iodine treatment tablets and what they're going to do. They're going to mess with your liver. They're going to mess with your kidneys. They're going to do things, you know, you want your kids drinking that stuff, not for long periods of time. So the small tablets, very, very portable. Excellent to have them. I've got a few of them. I just didn't have them here, but they're in my bag. I've got some of the Aqua Pure tablets or whatever. They're all pretty good. They do have different chemical makeups. Some of them they'll use potassium and chlorine and sodium and iodine. They all do the same thing roughly, and that's the goal of this is to kill small critters, the bacteria and the virus. They're very easy to use. Like I say here, you take a known amount, a known dose of the pill or powder or liquid or what have you, and you put it into a known volume of water. Usually these are gauged for the old 1-quart military size canteens. You take 1 or 2 tablets, you put them in there, you shake them up. You're supposed to shake them up real good first to help oxygenate the water. That's a small tip that you can use to improve the taste, because that's one of the cons of these is this water is going to taste terrible. Yep. Absolutely terrible. And if you have bad tasting water, what's going to happen? You ain't going to want to drink it. Exactly. So if you're holding off and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm hiking for my life here for miles and miles, and this water tastes like pure hell, and I don't want to drink it, you're going to dehydrate yourself, and you're not going to do it right. So that's one of the problems with these. The new UV devices, everybody's coming out with newer ones right now. I don't know how effective they are. I can't vouch for any of them. I wouldn't use them myself.
See, something tells me UV, okay, ultraviolet sun, correct?
Correct. And that's one of the solar UV method, and it takes a little bit of time.
Out in the middle somewhere and the sun's beating down all day. If it doesn't work there, what makes it think it's going to work here?
Exactly. Well, yeah, he said, what's if you have an open body of water and the sun's already hitting it, it's still not killing it, how effective is it? Correct, and it has to do with the volume.
Right.
There's a method called SODIS, SODIS, solar disinfection. You take a regular little clear PET, PET, that's the type of plastic. It's the BPA-free plastics that they use in water bottles now, and you peel the label off and you let them sit out in the sun. Depends on the heat and how cloudy it is and what have you. Sure. They say at least 2 hours in direct full sunlight. That's fine. It's iffy. If you've got nothing else, do that rather than just drink it straight. But I certainly wouldn't use that as my primary method because it's sketchy, it's iffy whether or not it's going to work. And what else is it not going to do? Correct. It's not going. It'll settle and any sediment will accumulate in the bottom of it. So I guess you could kind of try to drink around it. But, but all of the other stuff is still going to be there.
Right.
Petroleum products, pesticides, all of that stuff still going to be there, and you may not even be able to tell. And especially if you put a potassium iodide tablet in it or something, you're really not going to be able to tell because it's going to taste like chemical crap anyway. Let's see, bless you. Got one thing for the pro, potassium iodide in particular. If you use one of the iodine water treatments, it has one added benefit. God help you if you're exposed to it, but in a nuclear or radiological event, safe, stable iodine from your treatment tablets will protect your thyroid from radiological and nuclear fallout. Kind of a narrow plus, yes, sir.
Using it in the water.
Correct. Yes, it'll kill two birds with one stone, basically. You use it to disinfect your water, and you help stabilize your thyroid, so that if you're exposed to radiological stuff, it can help protect you. Yes, sir.
Now, is this not to be mistaken for the iodine you use on wounds? Or is it
No, well, there's problems there, and then I would have to defer. Do we have any nurses in here today? Okay, we do. Okay, good. He asked to make sure that if the difference was iodine used to clean wounds. I don't think we use pure iodine anymore. Usually we use betadine, which is, okay, she's saying yes, and it's not the same. I would not use betadine.
And they're even getting away from both of those in the ORs.
Really?
Because they're coming up with better things that will kill more stuff than the but yeah, there's usually a soap component to those. So yeah, they're not.
I know when I was a kid, we always used to either use the pure chrome or the iodine,
Right.
and I'm thinking, okay.
You're gonna have a hard time finding the
That is true. I don't know if I can even really translate that for the audience at home. That was good. Anyway, betadine and iodine are two different things, and do not use betadine to purify your water. You'll have a bad time.
You've got about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, well then I'm going to have to go a lot faster than I have been. Sorry.
You're fine.
Disinfection cons. They're not always effective against bacteria, protozoa, and certainly not against viruses. These things are not going to do anything to a virus. A virus is not a living organism. It's basically a fragment of DNA that replicates itself. It is not an actual living organism. So it is very, very resistant to anything that you try to do with it. All right, distillation. This is one of, I said it's an alternative and it's kind of eccentric. What you're going to need to actually distill it is the same thing you're going to need. Anybody watches what's the one on History Channel with all the moonshiners, right? And I mean, they pretty much show you right how to moonshine. I'm not going to say anything one way or the other regarding that, but this is the exact same process, except you're not adding sugar, you're not adding yeast, you're not making wort, you're not making beer, you're not making mash, you're not doing any of that. This is just water. That's right. This is just water. Actually, you can have a still at home for your home, for ATF regulations. You can have a home use still for making fuel. You can use it to make ethanol, and then you have to denature it. You have to add like kerosene to it, and it's actually a really good fuel. Biodiesel, ethanol, it's not bad. But this is just water. Okay? It's the same thing. You're going to need a reservoir to hold it. So you're going to need a big pot or a big bucket or something that's metal, copper pot, whatever you find laying around, and put your dirty water in there. Put it over a heat source. It's got to heat it up. It's got to heat it to a boil. You're going to need a collection hood. And then you're going to need something to go through. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but you're going to need a condenser. You take the steam and the water vapor, you run it through a condenser, which is usually called a worm or copper. Copper tubing is fine too. Cool that off, and then it drains into another collection bin, and then you can drink that. Okay? That's distilled water. Simple boiling. A lot of places say, oh, just boil, you'll hear it, you gotta, especially in the smaller communities, you have a boil advisory. Hey, that's great. You're boiling that water, so you can, if you do it long enough, at least 30 minutes at a boil.
That's a lot of fuel.
It is a lot of fuel, and that's one of the cons.
That's exactly
Space, weight, and fuel consumption. How much LP or natural gas or wood or coal or whatever are you going to devote to just cleaning your water? It's going to get bad real quick. It's going to get expensive.
1 gallon in the boil, it's a half hour to evaporation of that steam.
Correct.
You're down to half gallon.
Exactly, yes. You will lose volume. You won't have as much coming out as you do going in. So simply boiling it, hey, that's great. You're going to kill off most of the bad stuff, but it's still all in the water. I don't know about some people still have reactions even from dead viruses and dead bacteria. I know I do. I stopped getting flu shots because I would get just as sick getting the flu shot as I would getting the flu. So I'm really sensitive to a lot of that crap. So simple boiling, if that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. It's another tool in the arsenal. It's up here. But don't just do that. Don't just think that you're gonna survive on that. Solar evaporative methods, one of my favorite ones, and I've used it before, not out of necessity, but just to make sure I knew how. Dig a nice pit and that's open to the sun. Put you a little can or bucket or something down there and put preferably a clear plastic sheet, but if you got to use a colored tarp or whatever, and then put a rock in the middle of it and dangle a string down from it into the pot. What that'll do is the sun will help heat up the water that's in the soil. It will evaporate, collect on the tarp or the plastic, condense, run back down to the string and drip back down into the water container. That's a really good survival method. I know people that have used it, and I've done it just to make sure I knew how to do it, and it's something you should practice at least once because it's not easy to rig that up, but it will save your life in a pinch. Okay, we've already gone through all of those. Okay. Here are some of the excellent online resources. Some of these web pages. I know that purple really didn't turn out so well. I'm sorry. It just went to purple. I don't know why it did that. I would have liked it in a green, but it didn't like green. It just wanted purple. And we don't get into politics here. I don't particularly care what your politics are. We may agree about a lot of things. We may disagree about a lot of things. But I'm going to tell you one thing. The CDC and FEMA have some damn good information about a lot of different stuff. And even if you hate them and you think they're the devil, they've got some good stuff on there. I know some guys from FEMA, and they're all right guys. They're guys that are just like you guys and us. They're guys that care to set stuff up. Of course, they're never the ones in charge. So, like I said, I can't make a qualifying statement for political reasons, but CDC, Center for Disease Control, http://emergency.cdc.gov/. And I kind of linked these in because they've got huge websites. I've kind of narrowed it down into the things that we are all looking for, prepping and preparedness.
We can put all these on Facebook.
And that would be perfect.
Yep.
Put them on the web, put these links up. www.ready.gov/build-a-kit for the FEMA website. They've got everything to build your kit from scratch and up. American Red Cross, a lot of these things they had the same kind of info back and forth, but you really can't go wrong with the Red Cross. They do amazing work. Here I found one, the Wikipedia page for portable water purification. Really good stuff. They've got it broken down and done better than I have. But you can read that and learn a lot more at your leisure. And then another one down here, Ohio State University at Mansfield. They had one. They actually have a couple reports I found online regarding protozoa, amoeba. These types of things, these are the microorganisms, algae, fungi, amoeba, protozoa. These are the things they cause the malaria, they cause dysentery, they cause Legionnaire's disease. These are all things that affect drinking water, especially Legionnaire's disease. That's the big one. That'll really make you sick, and that one's hard to identify because it looks just like the flu, right up until you're in really bad shape. So these types of things, the OSU Mansfield, they had some really dry but pure data driven kind of articles online. They got some good stuff. If you really need something to cure some insomnia and you want to learn a little bit at the same time, I would really suggest going over those and looking those up. Real quick, do I have a couple more minutes just to go through? Okay. I've already gone over the Katadyn. If anybody wants to write it down again, it's the Katadyn, Katadyn pocket microfilter. This one, they even stamped it right on here. They're so proud of it. It says Swiss made. Not too many clunkers of any kind coming out of anything made in Switzerland. So, but these guys, Special Forces use these. Missionaries use these. This is the gold standard for traveling abroad because it's so small. I mean, this can conceivably go in a cargo pocket. Here, this is the Berkey little one. I haven't tried this yet. I want to try it. I'm looking forward to trying it sometime. It's real simple. I like the pop-up straw, and they're cheap. They're not expensive at all. Again, I've tried these before, but I didn't use them on really, really sketchy water because I didn't want to get unnecessarily sick. They don't do too bad. Here's another one just for storing them. Datrex, I'm sorry, Datrex. This is just a little Mylar baggie of water. You can hear it flopping around in there, squishing. They make, you can buy these. They're small 8-ounce servings. No, this one's 4 1/4 servings, I'm sorry. These are good. These go in my car. I got little kids in case we run out of juice boxes or, somebody has an accident and we got to wash off or something and we need something a little bit more than a wipe, baby wipe. And of course, this will keep. This is manufactured in 2010 and has an expiration of 2015. Another thing, just real side note, don't get too bent out of shape on expiration notices, particularly for food and medical items. They have to put an expiration date on these things, and they standardized it by doing 5 years. These things can last a lot longer, so especially medical supplies. Don't get too bent out of shape if you see things that are past expiration. Of course, you've always got this is a Black Hawk one, haven't used this one yet, got this one for my bicycle. Camelbacks, these are always good. This is actually I upgraded and got the C-burn. One thing that if I ever go over a class on gas masks and PPE, personal protective equipment, stuff like that, that's a phrase that you're going to hear. CBRNE stands for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive. This is a C-burn. It even says on here chemical resistant. This is a military style bladder. Yes, sir.
Reference to the Cat 9 microfilter filter that I got, it's actually designed to pull that chemical back up through that particular device.
Yes, yeah, and that's another thing is the quick connectors. This one I have just a regular bite valve on it. They also have things called the M adapters. They are made to link directly into a gas mask. You can plug it right into a gas mask. It has a little drinking tube installed in it, so you don't have to take your mask off to get a drink of water. And if you've worn a gas mask for more than 10 minutes at a time, you're going to want a drink of water. This is a new one to me. I don't know, Tim's familiar with, anybody else familiar with this Geiger rig?
Oh, yeah.
This is kind of like a Camelback. I'm not going to tear it all apart here. You guys can look it up. But this has a twin bladder. It has a regular water bladder that you fill it up just like a Camelback, and then it also has, you can't see it too well here. It's covered up in its little thing. It's got like a blood pressure cuff. It's a pump valve. So the second bladder fills up with air. You pressurize the bladder. Your water is pressurized inside, and you don't have a mouthpiece to suck on. It squirts water out. So you can share water without sharing your cooties. You know, if you can squirt this on stuff to clean it off, particularly if you have a wound or something and you're all muddy and dirty, you can use it, you can pump it up, pressurize it, squirt it out to clean off a wound or clean off a piece of equipment or something like that. I just got this a couple days ago. One store, I found these, I went to the Boy Scout Council store. They actually have a store. I don't know if you guys know. They moved it over to Poe Avenue, just down from Little York Road, right next to the FedEx store. This was on sale for 80 bucks. They're usually like 140 bucks. They had like 4 or 5 of them left. So for anybody that's looking for something like that. And then one more thing, sorry, Tim.
You're fine. No, you're fine.
This is another Ferrari of the water filtration. This is one I found a few years ago, and I have used it to great effect. This is by a company called HTI. They have a website, htiwater.com, I think. They sent these down to victims of Hurricane Katrina. And what you do is you fill this up. You got the red port here. It's just a big valve or a big opening. Open it up, dunk it in whatever water source you have, and it can be absolutely filthy. It can be mud. Scoop it up in there, and then you open up the green port, and it comes with these little syrup containers, these little bottles of syrup, and the syrup powers a chemical. They call it forward osmosis instead of reverse osmosis, but there's a membrane in between. This also has 2 chambers in it, two bladders, and it pulls the water at a microscopic level through the membrane. So it is only pure water coming through. The sugars in the syrup power it, and it turns it into like a sports drink, like a Gatorade.
Wow.
It tastes pretty good. And that will help because if it tastes good, you'll want to drink it. This thing is reusable, depending on the quality of the water. It takes about an hour or so to fill it up from one side to the other, depending on the temperature and everything. I used one of these a few days ago, and I went right down, when I got it, I went down to the Great Miami River, and I dunked this sucker in, and I filled it up with river water, and it's just as disgusting as you can imagine.
Wow.
Right down next to where the wastewater treatment plant empties into Moraine and West Carrollton. that's where I went. I said, if this thing's going to work, that's where it's going to work. And I drank out of this thing for 2 days using these syrup packs. And they're lightweight, they don't take up hardly any room, and I'm still alive. I never got sick at all.
What's the cost on them?
They're not cheap, but they're not crazy expensive either. I haven't actually looked to see what their cost. I got this one. This came in a bucket with one of these bladders. And then these are the single serving ones. These are single use, single bladders only, and you just dunk these in your water source. They say it can take up to 10 hours, so that's the downside, is it takes time. Yeah. But especially for this one, you know, I dunked it, filled it up, and put it in the trunk of my cruiser while I was driving around at work. And you know, every couple hours it would be filled up, and I'd drink out of it. And then I went back and did it again.
Glutton.
Yeah, glutton for punishment, that's for sure. But I can't recommend these guys enough. They've got a whole line of products. They've got the same kind of setup with the syrup and everything, but you can use the big 5-gallon jerry can style water cans. Those would be good for a car or a truck. Put them in there and you can filter it on the go. So if anybody wants to come up and take a look at any of this, you're more than welcome. Taking up a lot of time, I'm sorry. I'll hand it over to Tim and he can teach us about the Berkey. Thank you.
Guys, y'all, let's give a round of applause. That way I'll take it. But guys, I know we've held a little later than normal because I still want you to go around and see some of the vendors if you haven't seen them yet. But we have Berkey's up here. You all know that they're charcoal filter. They do an awesome job. So you come up here and check them out. You guys, please feel free to pick up things, look at them. Check out our vendors again if you would. Don't forget our next meeting. It'll be on the 20th, I believe, on Easter. How many enjoyed tonight? You guys really enjoy it? Yeah. Good. I learned a lot. I really did. Also, too, make sure you stop by and see Dan. Tell him thanks for coming out from Columbus today. We'd love to have you here tonight. Don't forget, we still got some more food over here. Pop 50 cents. It went down. So get your pop before you leave. But guys, we appreciate you coming. We want to thank you. Have a good night now.
Hello, my name is Tim Sanford, and I want to welcome you to the Miami Valley Preparedness Network, where we're teaching the skills of self-reliance living in today's culture. If you'd like to be a part of our meetings, you can go to MiamiValleyPreparednessNetwork.com or join our Facebook page, and you can see all the events going on there. Just remember, preparedness is not just an event, it's a lifestyle.